It's the DreamItAlive show. I'm your host, Ash Kumar, co-founder of DreamItAlive.com. We are a global community that guides you to create your dream life with visualization tools, dream boards, and helpful personal development content. So check it out at DreamItAlive.com. Why not take that next step and become the best version of yourself? So today's episode, I'm really excited, as you can tell by the energy tone I'm having right now, because if there's anyone who understands what visualization is about, it is Lewis Howes. Lewis Howes is a lifestyle entrepreneur, a term which he has famously coined. I've seen it used in the past, but I think he truly represents what lifestyle entrepreneur is, which is why I'm calling him that as the kind of the originator of that movement. He's also the creator and the host of a really awesome podcast called The School of Greatness. And I actually first heard of Lewis through the School of Greatness. I personally have listened to a lot of the interviews he's done. I mean, he's interviewed guys like Tim Ferriss, Tony Robbins. He's interviewed, Adam Braun, who we've interviewed also. He's interviewed really successful just achievers and people that just do whatever it takes to, make that dream come true. And also outside of that, he runs a very thriving business coach and various online marketing services, which have really made him very successful, also very prominent. People have written articles on him. If you just type in Lewis Howes, he's been featured in a lot of places. But why I wanted Lewis on this show is because the guy does not give up. He has been through what I call hell and back. His story of being a pro athlete to getting one of those injuries that could detriment his career to just turning it around and upside down and just becoming this success story as a business coach, prominent online marketing expert, and now doing things with the School of Greatness brand is something that's quite amazing, and really excited to learn more from Lewis on how he achieves what he's achieved, how he became successful, and what advice does he have for other people. I have interacted with various pro athletes and various people that are, just high caliber, high performance, high octane people. And Lewis is someone that really just continues to keep that positive stereotype that, when you're an athlete, you develop certain mindsets. I call it the mindset of a champion, which is why we call this Becoming a Champion. And let's just dive into that. Let's learn more from Lewis. So, Lewis, how you doing, man?
Doing well. How's it going, Ash?
Doing good, brother. So, tell us about your journey. How did you get to where you are right now?
Oh, man. Well, where should I start? Should I start when I was born or more recent?
More recent, such as an athlete.
Yeah, I used to be a professional football player, and I got injured in my rookie season playing arena football, diving to catch a football into the wall. And I had about 2 years of recovery. I had a full-arm cast on. I had a surgery. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a college degree at the time, and I was sleeping on my sister's couch during this time. And I was going through a lot of uncertainty. I wasn't sure about what was next for me, how I was going to make a living, how I was going to get my own apartment even, what I was going to do for food. I was just kind of really unsure about the future. And I found a couple good mentors that I seeked out and really bugged the crap out of in a good way. I bugged them constantly to try to offer value to them and also to get some feedback and to just try to be around their energy to see how they were doing it to getting to a place that I wanted to be. And I started to add some value and learn about the online marketing world. I had all of this free time, so I was researching online, following what successful entrepreneurs were doing and bloggers, and really started to dive into social media and found a niche there with social media, specifically on LinkedIn and webinars, built a multi-million-dollar business within a couple of years. It all started to come pretty quickly once I started to hit my stride. Sold that company, launched the School of Greatness podcast, and book deal, and now it's just kind of blown up since then.
Okay, well, a couple really interesting things I wanted to pick your brain on. One is you talk about LinkedIn and social media, just to dive into some tactical skill sets. you understand self-branding really well. We've talked about this a lot with various guests about the power of self-branding, especially in the online space, is so key for getting your name out there, getting that opportunity, whether as a job or getting funding or just getting traction with, let's say, press. How would someone develop their own strong self-brand online if they had no idea of where to start?
Oh, man. Well, I think you got to get clear on who you are and what you stand for. And when you get clear on what you represent, who you are, where you're going, your vision, even if you don't have anything right now, you can start to put out information and content that supports who your authentic self is. So the best way to really start building your brand is to create social media accounts, just because that's where everyone's hanging out. So to get noticed, you need to be noticeable in the places where people are spending time in. And you need to add value to those audiences and be known as something, whatever it may be. So just getting involved in the conversation on different social media platforms, but then also, if you want to take your brand to the next level, building a nice personal branded blog is the next step. And then following that could be, writing your own ebook or a Kindle book, or having a show, a podcast, or something unique that adds value to an audience of people that you're looking to serve.
Okay, no, that makes total sense. And what I liked what you said is, market yourself and be helpful to others in niches and industries that you have an expertise in. Like, for instance, you're not going to go to a biotech venture capital conference and try to offer your guidance when you've never worked in the biotech industry. If you've worked in the sports marketing industry,
exactly,
you're going to go to the sports marketing industry. Okay, I got it. I love that. Well, one of the other things I wanted to kind of better understand is when you were at that place of, let's say depression or disappointment, right when you got injured and you were, hanging out in your sister's place. And I appreciate you sharing that story. How did you visualize any success, or did you just throw yourself in a world and things just naturally came? Like, how did you know? Because you said within a few years, fairly quickly, you started to develop a 7-figure business. Was there any visualization or anything related like that happened in the process?
Every day was visualizing. It was interesting. I read a book when I was injured that changed my perspective about how to make money and build, my own career. And that was the 4-Hour Work Week, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Mm-hmm. And I remember reading this book, and it took me 3 days to finish, which I probably had maybe finished 5 or 10 books from cover to cover before that my entire life, because I'm a slow reader. And I couldn't put this down. So 3 days was very fast for me. And I remember after reading it, just thinking about all the possibilities that it opened up for me and what was possible. I didn't follow everything that Tim wrote about in the book, but it showed me what was possible for my life, seeing the case studies and the examples in the book. And I remember saying to myself, one day I want to inspire millions of people in the way that this book is inspiring people. I want to speak in front of audiences like Tony Robbins does, in front of his size audiences. And I want to write a New York Times bestseller, make millions of dollars, sell a company for $1 million. And I want to have whoever the agent is for this book, I want that to be my agent, because it was so powerful. And I was like, that's the guy I want to be working with me. And so I would follow these. I basically would create a certificate of achievement and place it on my wall, sign it and date it about 6 months to a year ahead for big goals, but that were like goals that I could achieve in that time. And I would put it up on the wall, right by my mirror, my desk, or whatever, and look at it every single day and look at it as an award that has already been achieved just on that date that I put it down by. So all I needed to do was reverse engineer how to make that happen, and I focus on it every single day. And wouldn't you know, I just signed a book deal with Tim Ferriss's agent for that book about a month ago, and I just interviewed Tony Robbins on my show, and I'm speaking in front of thousands of people, and I sold a company for $1 million, and my visions are coming true. And not everything always works out the way I initially envision it to be, but it's usually pretty close or even better than I thought I could imagine. And I definitely believe in the power of visualizing and framing your goals as if they've already happened.
Wow, this is so powerful. I had to just pause for a second. I literally had my eyes closed that whole time when you were discussing it. So, I mean, that was damn good. Wow. I'm going to give you a little
Thank you.
business idea. You need to come up with some visualization audio clips and put them on your site because what you just did was pretty damn effective.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah.
For those people who just heard this, and thank God we archive these and we promote them after the live interview, what he just went through, folks, is the best example of how you can use visualization. And what I liked about what Lewis did is that he had an end game and then he deconstructed it going from the finish line to the start. He literally just went through those steps. And so anyone, if you have time, limited time or whatever, hear that part at least on this interview. That was amazing. So Lewis, when you were doing this whole process, how did you stay accountable? I mean, you looked at the goals, you worked on the goals. Did you write it down? Did you do vision boards or dream boards? I mean, what did you do at the time? I mean, this kinds of technologies online weren't that prevalent. So how did you stay accountable to all this?
Yeah. I mean, I was an athlete, my whole life and was driven by reaching goals in various seasons. So every sport has a season. And we would create, each week, there was a different goal based on the game we were playing that week. And then each week led up to the end of the season. So it's kind of like every week I'd break it down into smaller increments for what I needed to do that week. So I'd give myself mini goals. So if the goal was to make $1 million in the year, it's like, okay, I need to do, 1,000 sales at $1,000, or I need to do 10,000 sales at $100. I think that's the math. So I break it down weekly. Okay, how many do I need to get every single week, and how many do I need to get every single day to make that happen? And what do I need to do to get 10 sales this week at $1,000, or 20 sales this month? What do I need to do to make that happen? So I break it down, and I was just like a maniac on a mission because I was broke, and I'm so committed to achieving goals that I was just like nonstop working, and I didn't really have a good structure, I would say. So I wouldn't say it was like the best way of achieving it, but I achieved it. But I just more willed it and just made it happen without a balanced life. And now there's definitely a lot better apps and goal setting apps that are online, and obviously DreamItAlive is a great site to have a vision board and create that and stay accountable and have a community of being accountable. I've created a academy called the School of Greatness Academy, where people pay every month to be a part of, just to have accountability. So they put their goals for the month. I give them a challenge, and then they put what they're going to be accountable for, and they put it out there. And there's different challenges where they have to donate money if they don't achieve their goal. They get just the feeling of embarrassment by putting it out there to a community of peers is what sometimes will support people. Encouragement supports to people. So I think finding a support group is definitely helpful in achieving your goals. I think figuring out what works best for you to stay accountable every day and every week so that you have a balance with achieving your goals and you're not just focusing 100% on that, but you have a balance with your relationships, your lifestyle, and your health as well, and your emotional health, which is important. And figuring out a system that works for you with all the different tools and apps that are available now.
Okay. Well, no, that makes sense. Well, let's dive into the School of Greatness for a second. What was the niche or need that you wanted to solve with the School of Greatness? I know you just explained on what it does, but walk us through the vision of what you had wanted it to initially be and what has it now become? Because it's doing really well. I mean, I know a lot of people that are affiliated with it.
Yeah, are you talking about the podcast or the
no, the whole brand. The whole brand. I mean, the podcast is an extension of the brand. So yeah.
Sure, yeah. I mean, you say where is it going, and what's the main question?
What was your original vision behind it, and where has it now gone from there?
Gotcha. My original vision was, I started it because of a girl. I'll tell you a story. I started because of a girl. I moved to Los Angeles. I was dating a girl who lived out here, and I ended up moving out here, and it was like the most strenuous, challenging experience of my life, going through this emotional roller coaster of a relationship. And some of the biggest lessons I learned that I'm so blessed and grateful for. But I never would have moved to LA without this relationship, without this experience, because I loved New York City and I didn't really like LA that much. So I moved to LA, and I'm miserable for like 9 months because I miss New York. I'm frustrated with the relationship, and it's not going anywhere, and I'm not doing anything to change it. I'm trying, but nothing's working. And I realized that, I'm driving all over the place in Los Angeles, and there's an opportunity to reach an audience of people who are driving all day long with podcasts. And I never even thought about it because I didn't listen to podcasts. So I said, I think I could create something that's inspirational, where I can bring all my friends on the show and educate and inspire people to take their life to the next level. So originally it was like a hobby to reach a broader audience of people and leverage iTunes, and I wasn't sure where it would go. And then shortly after, I started having like a vision for what I wanted to achieve in my life. I started doing a lot of work on myself, diving deep into what wasn't working for me, why my ego was coming up in so many situations. I was just really taking a look at my life and what I was doing and what I was up to and what my vision is. Because I was set on these specific goals when I was younger that were more focused on money or, getting recognized or achieving something, but it wasn't about serving others as much. There was definitely service involved, but it wasn't like the main vision. So I got very clear on what I wanted to achieve. And shortly after I launched this podcast, because I started getting feedback about it from people, and I became clear that my vision is to serve 100 million people, to support them in making a full-time living around doing what they love most. And that's what the podcast and the brand, the School of Greatness, is about now. It's serving that mission, teaching people how to make a full-time living around doing what they love the most, and supporting them throughout the entire process. So supporting them with their health, with their mindset, with business strategy, with relationship strategies, with giving back, with all these different things. And that's kind of how it's grown now.
That's amazing. Well, one of the things I'm curious about, because you've interviewed, everyone that I at least look up to and want to learn from, Tim Ferriss, Tony Robbins. You've interviewed pretty much amazing people. Who are like a couple peoples that really just meant the world to you? And specifically, what did they say to you that you'll never forget?
First thing that comes to mind is the interview I did with Tony Robbins recently, and he said that the secret to wealth is gratitude. And for the last couple of years, I've really been focusing on gratitude, and not just like it being this thing that I talk about every now and then or express every now and then, but something that really lives inside of me, that is me, being gratitude 100% of the time. And it was nice to hear that confirmation from someone who has impacted millions of people's lives in a positive way, who has made a lot of money, who has a great marriage, who serves, constantly gives back to people, that he says the secret to wealth is gratitude. And I just thought, it's confirming that I'm on the right track. But as long as I continue to be grateful and live with gratitude in my heart towards everything that I'm doing and situations that occur, then it's all going to be okay.
Okay. How about one more person? And then we have a couple of cool audience questions we'll get to.
Sure. People say so many great things on my podcast. It's hard for me to remember all of them. Let me think of another one recently. Sorry if you can hear sirens in the background.
No worries.
My friend, I interviewed a guy recently named Robbie Rogers, who is the first openly gay male athlete to play in a professional sport. And he plays for the LA Galaxy. He just had a book that came out last week called Coming Out to Play. And he is playing in the championship game of the MLS this weekend with the LA Galaxy. And I interviewed him last week and had a great conversation with him. And, I was just talking about, why it took him so long to open up. And I asked him the importance of sharing any secrets or truths or embarrassments or fears that you may have about yourself. And he said he felt like a prisoner his whole life until he finally opened up about it. He felt like he was, himself, his authentic self finally. So I think, I don't know if it was something he specifically said, but just a message that rings true to me right now is to always be yourself and not try to hide, what's true about you, whatever that may be, even if it's going to mean embarrassment or uncertainty or maybe even your family not accepting you. But if they're not going to accept you for who you are, or your friends aren't going to accept you, or whoever, society, then do you want to, be friends with them anyways, or do you want them in your life anyways? So for me, I think it's just constantly check and be in check about what you're up to, what your truth is, and be honest about it with people at all times.
Okay. Well, that's a great segue to actually Barbara's question. And Barbara wanted to know, hey, Lewis, I'm really curious. When you were talking to Tony Robbins, you asked him about his habits and the energy that he got. What did you feel from an energy level when you were sitting down with him? Did you sense that he had done some rituals before the interview, or is he just naturally that on fire? Because when I saw the whole interview, it just felt like he had like 10 cans of Red Bull in him.
Yeah, he has a lot of energy. That guy is pretty impressive, and it's pretty amazing. I've been to one of his events as well, where he's just like on fire the whole day. Like he doesn't take a nap, he doesn't go to the bathroom, he doesn't eat. He's just on fire. And the thing that I noticed about him was his presence and his connection that he created with me. He was doing media press, all day that day and for, like 2 weeks before me. And he was so connected and present with me. It wasn't like he was thinking about something else. He's a master in NLP, and, he's obviously coached presidents and the biggest athletes in the world. So he knows how to do this, and he's been doing it for 35 years, but he was very present with me. His eye contact and his graciousness with me. He wasn't like trying to act bigger than or smarter than. He wasn't his ego wasn't coming out. He was creating connection by touching. He constantly touched me, which is obviously a great way to create connection and intimacy with anyone. And his energy was just on fire. He embodied energy, and I think that's one of his keys to success is his energy. And I know he does rituals every morning where he gets himself ready for the day. He sets his intention for the day so that he has the energy throughout the day. Then he's eating the right things all the time. Like everything he does is so he can have energy on a big level. I think that's very important to check where we're at, what we're putting in our body and our minds constantly, and how we're feeding ourselves emotionally and physically so that we can have energy to inspire others in the same way.
That's awesome. That was a good answer. Well, James has a question, and he wanted to know, what are your morning rituals or daily life habits?
Yeah, I just posted a podcast on today. If you go to lewishowes.com/111, I talk a little bit about my morning ritual a little bit. But one of the things I try to do every morning. Some mornings I miss it. It depends if I'm traveling. But my intention for every morning is to wake up and do a 10-minute guided visualization meditation that I've been doing for about, 11 years now. And I do that to set my intention and to ground myself. Then I make my bed. And I feel like I heard a talk a couple of years ago where a guy said, the most important thing you can do is make your bed in the morning and have ownership over something. And he was like this Buddhist monk. And for some reason I was like, I just trusted the guy. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. Because I always been to make my bed. And I started doing that, and it just felt like, okay, it's like a little mini goal. It's like a little mini victory. And I'm setting myself up to accomplish something that's good work and that gets my space clean and ready to go for the day, as opposed to having a messy space. So I think clearing the space, clearing the space, setting the intention is the first things that I do. And then I usually have a smoothie or breakfast right after that, a healthy smoothie right after that. And depending on when I'm training for something, I will work out in the morning or I'll work out in the afternoon if I'm not in training mode for a competition. But those are the first three things I do most of the time as my daily ritual.
Okay. Well, this last question is from Daniel, and he wanted to know, Lewis, I totally felt your connection when you were talking about how you moved to LA and you had a relationship and how it had a big impact on your life. As a busy entrepreneur and many entrepreneurs that I know, I find it very hard to balance love and working on my mission or passion. What are your thoughts on this whole subject? Or do you think having a work-life balance with a significant someone is not meant to happen?
Yeah, it's something I've been asking a lot of bigger influencers on my podcast if they can, I'm really interested if you can have a huge vision and achieve that vision while also being in service to one person in a relationship. Because it's a lot of energy to, be in relationship with one person and give that person the needs that they want because they're giving you the needs that you want. So this is something I've been, researching and asking for people who are, got a big game in their life and asking people who are not married, who are married. And I definitely think it's possible. I think the only thing that matters is constant communication and being able to constantly communicate. And sometimes, as a busy entrepreneur, we get caught up in our own world and we're just in the zone until like 2 a.m. and we don't do anything except for work. And I don't think that's what greatness is. I don't think it's like working yourself to the bone until the last minutes of the night. I think greatness is learning how to have it all. And it's learning how to let go of control of everything you want to do. Tony is on such a big level, and just being around him for that hour, it was like a whole production of other people getting the interview set up. It wasn't like he was there waiting. There was like his assistant and then another assistant and then a third guy came in, and they were like all navigating to make sure that he was set up to win so that he could come in and do his thing and then go back and relax or get ready for the next thing. So it wasn't all on his shoulders. So I think it's about learning how to let go of control with everything, finding a support system, team to support you to rise to your highest level, and being in constant communication with yourself and the relationship.
Okay. Well, that's some sound advice right there. My last question to you, Lewis, before we adjourn is, in the straightway of Tony Robbins and Tim Ferriss, I know you said that you're working on your own book. Why don't you tell us a little about what to expect on this book, when it could come out, and how could people be more aware of this book when it launches?
Sure. It's called The School of Greatness, and still working on the subtitle right now as we're writing and finishing it. But it's all about the lessons of greatness and how to achieve greatness in any area of your life, pulling from experiences of my life, but then also backing it up with a lot of different case studies from people that I've interviewed on the podcast and other friends of mine that I've yet to interview who have achieved some incredible things. And basically finding out how they became so successful and how they have achieved greatness in all these different areas, and finding the common lessons that anyone can follow, and then having the exercises that people can do to back up these lessons so they can take action and achieve it themselves. The book is coming out in the end of October, early November 2015, and you can go to lewishowes.com and sign up for my newsletter to be notified, or you can download the podcast, School of Greatness, on iTunes and be notified of that as well. Okay,
awesome. Well, Lewis, on behalf of DreamItAlive.com and on behalf of the people that are listening to this interview, thank you so much for what you're doing. I really, really appreciate the work that you're doing for the world. Your podcast is a daily ritual of mine to listen to. I've done countless road trips where I will just literally download 4 or 5 interviews and just instantly play them, and I didn't even realize how fast time flies. That's how good your show is. Seriously.
I appreciate it. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, no problem. Have a good day, man.
Thanks so much, I appreciate it, man.